So I saw X-Men Dark Phoenix today, and it's not a good movie. And by a good movie, I mean something that you can watch the first time and enjoy, but also watch a second time and also enjoy. But maybe on the third time, you're like, I could do without it. So it's not even at that level. That's a good movie. To me, a great movie is something that you can watch multiple times and still enjoy it each time. Phenomenal movie would be something that you can watch so many times that you actually start to quote it. This is stuff like The Matrix, or for me, one of my favorites is V for Vendetta. And Dark Phoenix is not one of those movies at all. It's an okay movie. It's very bland. So there aren't any actual opening credits. You know, like with the other X-Men movies, they had that cool intro with that really cool X-Men music. There's none of that here. It's just, Fox Presents, 21st Century Fox Presents, in association with Marvel and TSG, and then Dark Phoenix. And it's very just muted and boring, and I don't know why they didn't, the movie cost about $200 million. I don't know why I didn't have any kind of engaging opening credits or graphics or something. So anyway, the movie doesn't really get any better than that. So it starts off with no hype, no sort of visuals to draw you in, and it never gets better. And I'm not gonna go through the whole thing because, like I said, it's a very bland movie. And I'm sure CinemaSins or someone else will definitely nitpick everything. And one of the things that kind of caught my attention was the origin of Jean Grey's Phoenix powers. Because if you're watching X-Men Dark Phoenix, more than likely you've already seen X-Men Apocalypse. And so you know the ending where she lets go of her emotions or whatever, and the Dark Phoenix literally shows up in her eyes, and on the side of her is flames and everything. But in this movie, they try to go the comic route where it's a Space Force entity that takes over Jean's body, which would have been nice if that had happened already in the past movie. So X-Men Apocalypse suggests that Jean Grey always had that power in her, and in this movie just completely forgets X-Men Apocalypse and is like, no, she got her Phoenix powers from a space cloud, because studio executives are really good at writing stories. $200 million, by the way. And so that whole origin for this movie would have worked if Apocalypse didn't exist, right? Or no, it's really the only way it could have worked. So it creates a huge plot hole for Apocalypse. So, and the other thing that stood out to me was, I guess the movie was supposed to be taking place in the 90s, I believe, because First Class was in the 60s, Days of Future Past was in the 70s, Apocalypse is in the 80s, yeah, because in the 80s, and then I believe this was supposed to be in the 90s, but the set props or the clothing, the music, none of it really harkens back to the 90s. A great example would be in Captain Marvel, where, and this isn't me like defending Disney or anything, but in Captain Marvel at least they had like stuff with Blockbuster and some of the music choices that made you think, okay, this is the 90s era. Doesn't give you a specific year, but it says this is a 90s era. In this movie with X-Men Dark Phoenix, I didn't see any hints of what particular time frame they were in. And that might be because Simon Kinberg, who wrote and directed this thing, I don't know if this is his first directorial movie, it might not be, but he seemed to, maybe it was another studio note, I don't know, but he seemed to scrimp also on just like wardrobe that might have stood out from the 90s, or a poster, something. And the music choices, there's one point in the movie where, I don't know, I think Jean Grey's walking to her house or something like that after her dad, and the music choice that's there, I was like, what the hell is this music? It's just like bland. It's just so bland and just mediocre. And only reason I remember this scene is because I remembered how bad the music was, which is not a good thing if you're trying to entertain people. So the music thing, and of course, just like with the other movies, no one actually seems like they've aged since Apocalypse, assuming of course this is taking place in the 90s. No one in here has aged. 10 years, let alone since first class, which would have been, by this point, 30 years ago. Okay, let me focus on some of the stuff that was, let me talk about some of the stuff that was good. Gotta be something that was good. I think there was, what was good? The CGI? No. I mean, there's a lot of hand gestures, a lot of, sort of that going on. So that was neat. That was a positive, I guess. The story is not very good. The plot sucked. So here's the basic plot of the movie, is that the X-Men are now basically Charles Xavier's child soldier army. It's really messed up, but I could have seen how the story could have gone that route, because the movie starts off with them saving some random cosmonaut, astronaut, space shuttle mission crew out in wherever, and suddenly the Blackbird, which is an airplane based on the SR-71, which was just a regular airplane, flew really fast, but it was just an airplane, and suddenly the X-Men have boosters on this thing, and it's able to escape terminal velocity and leave the atmosphere just like a regular space shuttle would. So I was like, all right, fine. So they rescue these people, and in the process of rescuing them is when this space cloud thing, attacks Jean, and it takes over her body, and basically the rest of the movie, and this happens within 20 to 30 minutes. So the rest of the movie is basically just Jean, I don't want to hurt anyone, and them complaining about how Charles lied to her. And the movie just drags that whole little thing for the rest of the movie. It's only 2 hours and 5 minutes long, 6 minutes long, and only about 40 minutes of it is not completely dedicated to just that one. I don't want to hurt anyone, and Charles lied to me. It gets, like I said, the movie starts out bland and it stays bland the whole way. I wouldn't watch it again. I wouldn't recommend anyone actually watching it. I was kind of on the fence of checking it out because I never saw X3. Here's the thing, when the X-Men movies came out, I was more of a Sam Raimi Spider-Man fan. I didn't care much for the weird dark leather suits that the X-Men were wearing, so I didn't really check them out until way later. I grew up watching the X-Men animated series, and I was a huge X-Men comic reader. I love the X-Men comics, but the movies just, maybe it must have been the suits, I don't know. I just didn't really care to keep watching them until Days of Future Past. And another thing, after she's recovers from the space mission, she just automatically just arbitrarily gets the name the Phoenix from the other kids at the school. And it's like, why would they call her the Phoenix? They're like, oh yeah, because you died. Except she didn't die. Once the Force took over her, she was unresponsive for about, 30 seconds or so. But she didn't die. It wasn't like, oh, she died and they took her back to Earth and then suddenly she rose from the ashes. No, she didn't die at all. She was unresponsive for about 30 to 45 seconds, and then she asked if everyone was okay, and then they all went back to Earth. It was like, I'm unresponsive for about 8 hours when I sleep, and no one's just arbitrarily calling me the Phoenix when I wake up. It was just so forced. The X-Men should be more complicated characters, considering their eternal stance against bigotry and prejudice. So it should be more complicated. In this movie, they are not complicated whatsoever, but the action also sucks. And there's these weird alien things. I don't know where the hell they came from. Jessica Chastain is the main villain with these alien things. I don't know who they were supposed to be. If the movie had been done right, Jessica Chastain's character could have been Lilandra and Gladiator. And they held the M'Kraan crystal, which at one point housed the Phoenix Force. But that's a whole thing going on there. But anyway, she's not Lilandra with the Shi'ar Empire. She's just some random alien dude on Earth. And she has a bunch of her alien cronies. And they're all faceless, I don't know, sidekicks. I don't know what the hell they were. But they reminded me of the monsters from the M. Night movie, not The Village, Signs. Reminded me of Signs. And the aliens in this one were lame as well too. So, I don't know, the movie was not very good. I wouldn't watch it again. I wouldn't recommend anyone watching it. It was bland. Just flatline all the way through, And then I read somewhere that it tried to connect itself to Days of Future Past. I didn't see it in this movie. I didn't see any connection to anything. It was just a random movie that cost $200 million to make that I don't think it's gonna make that money back. I do not see it happening. But anyway, I did also see Godzilla. I'm gonna do a separate review for that. And Deadwood, also the HBO movie, love that movie. And that's it for now. Don't watch Dark Phoenix. It's not good. All right, bye. I did see Pikachu. I know I mentioned that at the end of the Avengers review that I did a while ago. I did end up seeing Detective Pikachu, and that movie was terrible too. Those people were boring, so boring, so boring. I tried to watch that movie twice, and each time I just couldn't make it past half an hour into the movie. That main character kid, so boring, and I couldn't tell when they were trying to tell jokes. It's like the delivery was just so flat, and there was no enunciation or any kind of differentiation in their tone. It's like, oh, you're just talking right now, right? Oh no, that was supposed to be a joke. Oh, okay, that's not gonna get old, and it got old super fast. So I'm not even gonna bother. I didn't bother making a video for it because it just didn't work out. I just didn't like it. The movie sucked too much. I'm not gonna, like, I know there are a lot of channels on YouTube that specifically are about tearing a movie down and, like, you know, making fun of this, making fun of that. I got no time for that. So I'm just not gonna, if I don't like a movie that much, like the Detective Pikachu movie, I'm just not gonna bother making a review for it. It's just, because this stuff takes time, especially the editing. Well, sometimes the editing, but anyway, that's a note to that. And I did see John Wick, and that movie's really good. That gets 2 thumbs up. That gets real 2 thumbs up. Real good movie.